Hey Potters. All right, this is a little bit different of a video. I'm not gonna be doing a demonstration. We're just gonna have a little talk. And that talk is about pricing your pottery, which is important. And this could be for pricing your pottery, pricing your artwork. It's a big question when it comes to being an artist. We are getting ready for some pottery sales, and so you will be pricing your own pottery. And so let's talk about some things you need to think about when you're pricing your own pottery. And there's some differences because right now you're in a studio at school that you get to access for free and don't have to pay for your materials. So we're going to talk about that versus, well, the real world. So when you're thinking about pricing your pottery outside of school, you need to think about your material costs, your studio costs, like what it costs to fire your kiln, to rent your studio, to pay your taxes, all those type of things. And that needs to be figured into your price of your pots. You also need to think about when you're making your pots, let's say one of your specialties is making bowls. So how long does it take you to make a bowl from the wedging of the clay all the way through the firing to the pricing to the transporting to the shows, mailing to customers, all of the time involved, marketing, all that stuff. How much time does that take? And then how much do you want to pay yourself? You're going to pay yourself minimum wage? Are you going to pay yourself more than that? Hopefully a living wage. And so that factors in. You also need to think about experience. So maybe a potter that's only been working for a year might not charge as much for a pot as a potter who has been working for 20 years. Or maybe a potter who is in a lot of galleries and really well known, they might be able to charge even more for their pots because they have collectors and a strong following that will pay a higher price for their pots. Then there's this whole aspect where if you price something really low, your buyer might think of it as being kind of cheap. Where if you price it more of a market value, or maybe even a little bit higher than that, not that it should be this way, but they will value it more because it costs more, if that makes sense to you. That's why, like, when we buy a diamond, if it's real and we spend a lot of money on it, we hold a lot of value in that diamond. But if we buy the exact same product that looks exactly the same but isn't a diamond, and is much cheaper, we don't have as much value. So the same thing goes to artwork, pottery. Then you have to think about the responsibility you have to your artist community or your fellow potters. In my opinion, I don't think it's responsible to our fellow potters and pottery community if I am, let's say, I am selling pots for inexpensive and undercutting all the other potters on that platform or in the area. Because let's say I don't need to necessarily make my money from my pottery. Maybe it's just a hobby, something I do for fun, but other potters make a living doing it. Like, that is their salary. That, I think there's some type of responsibility there too. I shouldn't be selling, let's say, a bowl for $5 when, honestly, it's worth more than that. When the market value for a handmade ceramic bowl is maybe $25, $35, because it's irresponsible to the pottery community. I hope that makes sense. And then, of course, looking at the market value. So in our studio, the market value for a bowl might be different than a market value someplace else, just because you guys are beginning students. So it's good to look at what other people are pricing their pots. As you get out into the more professional pottery world, or you're selling on a professional level or more public level, you're gonna want to look around and see, like, what does a handmade mug or cup go for? You know, I always think, you know, mugs aren't easy to make. You gotta make the handle, man, handles crack. There's a lot of technical issues when it comes to handles and mugs. Mugs and cups in the ceramic realm can go from anywhere, responsibly, in my opinion, anywhere from 35 being the very low, up into 100 plus. So, you know, thinking about that according to what you're selling, how much time you put in, what your experience is all things you need to think about. So pricing is a big deal when it comes to making artwork. You want to sell your work for sure. You don't want to spend all this time at a show and not sell anything, but you don't want to sell yourself short. If we go into a show and we're selling everything for $5 or $10, what are we saying to our community that's coming through that show? Perhaps we're not valuing ourselves. We're not putting value in a handmade object. And how do we expect them to put value in those ideas if we aren't doing it ourselves? So a lot of things to think about. If you are a potter or an artist and you're watching this video, I would love for you to comment and share your ideas and your thoughts on the subject for my students to read. I think that it is so important for students to get insight and opinions from different people than just me. I'm obviously not, I don't know everything, and these are just my opinions. So if you would like to leave a comment and share your thoughts on this subject, we would really appreciate it. So, some things to think about. While you're in the studio, ask a peer what you should price your pots at. Run it by me. I will not tell you what to price your pots at, but you can give me a range and then we can discuss it from there. All right, potters, here we go. It's time to sell some pots.